Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to help you write your conclusion, which should be quite a quick piece of work and is worth 2 marks. First thing I'd get you to do is, in step 1, open up the student guide, which is what I'm looking at on the screen right now, and scroll down to page 8 of the 25 pages, where you'll see the instructions that I've got in front of you. Okay, so how do you start a conclusion? Obviously, you're going to want to write the heading conclusion, and then the first thing that you're going to want to do is actually conclude on each of your 2 research questions. And you're going to do each one in turn. Okay, so you would probably want to start, therefore, with discharge. And you're going to want to summarize what you have discovered. So the first thing you want to do is you want to say that for discharge, I have proved that discharge and tell me what it did. Now, what you then might want to do is, not what you probably should do is refer to the piece of evidence that you're going to want to use to support that judgment. So if you're telling me that discharge did actually, as you predicted, increase substantially, then you want to, as you can see here, indicate the main piece of evidence that led you to this view. You're going to want to refer to figure 6 or figure 3, and don't just refer to the graph that proves it, but actually tell me what the statistical evidence was. So if it increased 40 times or by how much, and how does that support that conclusion? What you then want to say is that as a consequence of this, or on the basis of this graph, you would argue that your hypothesis is, and you have to choose one of these. It's either proven if you proved it, so you'd want to say my hypothesis that the discharge would increase significantly as I move downstream was proven, or was unproven if you don't feel there is enough evidence, because if you feel that the river changed quite a lot in between, that you might not be happy to say it was not proven at all, or you might choose to go partially proven. If you think there is some evidence to suggest, yes, it does, but there are things that go against this. Now, clearly, what you then want to do is explain to me why you think your hypothesis has been proven, unproven, or partially proven. What is the 1 or 2 main bits of analysis you offered on the river? So something you identified as being the most significant factor in influencing why you've drawn this conclusion. So, for example, you could argue that you felt rock type over which the river flowed was the most significant factor, or the efficiency of the river channel, or the gradient. Whichever one you pick as you believing why it was the one that had the most impact. Obviously, you're going to want to have already mentioned it in your findings. You're going to have to explain why you think that is the thing that had the most significant impact. Now, it can be more than one thing. It can be a couple of things. Okay. Now, at this stage, with discharge, you might choose to do this here. Now, if you're going to now report a statistical result to back up your hypothesis, to add further weight to your hypothesis being proved or disproved, then pause the video now and watch the second tutorial, which talks about how to conduct a statistical test, which would give you some mathematical evidence to support this. This isn't compulsory. And if you're going to do this, you're going to have to be able to understand the result that you get and what it is you're reporting. Otherwise, there's no point doing it if you don't understand that video. Or you might go through that second video and decide that you don't quite follow that statistical test. You don't quite understand what it is I'm advising, and therefore I would avoid it. Okay. However, if you do want to add that in, you would get credit for it, but you don't have to. Don't worry if you don't do it, because there are other ways you can be awarded the marks. Okay, so pause the video now if you want to use that statistical test, and come back to the video after you've reviewed that. Now, assuming you have or haven't used the statistical test and reported your findings, your final thing is going to be here. You're now going to tell me for discharge, is your results similar to what Bradshaw predicted in relation to the hypothesis that you formulated and in relation to the model itself. So does discharge increase as he predicted? And does it increase substantially as he predicted? So to what extent? So you could say you think it's closely aligned. I would definitely say at this point that, however, the variations do vary significantly as you move down the river, and in your findings, I explored, the range of factors that were causing that variation. Okay. Now, once you've done that for your first research question, in this case, discharge, you want to repeat that process for your own personal research question. So that's going to be either the rock shape or the bedload shape, the rock size or the bedload size, and finally, or the hydraulic radius, if that's the one you picked. The only thing that you wouldn't be doing for the second one is you probably don't need to do a second statistical test. So if you did choose to do the statistical test for discharge, I wouldn't suggest you really need to do it twice. But you still want to be able to do the other aspects of this. Okay, you are looking to keep this reasonably quick. You don't want a whole page. You want a paragraph for your first research question with your main conclusions, which directly use the word in conclusion, or my main findings are, or my main conclusions are, and you want to do the same, one paragraph for your second. Okay, just pay attention before we finish. There are a couple of marks you'll be taught. This will have been outlined to you in class, which are for you using the structure, and the structure marks will be given assuming you have main sections like introduction, methodology, findings, and conclusion. You might even choose to have some subheadings, and also that you've used lots of key geographic terms like infiltration and abrasion, all the other kind of words that you would only use in a geography project, and that you've got quite a few of them littered across your entire project, and that would allow you to access this other mark.